100 fun facts and things you might not have known about Ultrakill, all in one video. This is a compilation of 4 different videos I've made, and it has extra information and fun facts thrown in throughout, so there's a reason to watch it again if you've already seen the original videos. Now you're probably wondering, what's so weird about this? It's just a river. Well, the weird thing comes at the top of the waterfall, the source of the river itself. Now this isn't possible to reach, to my knowledge, without cheating, but if you go all the way up here, which by the way is an insanely long distance into the sky, you'll find right at the top a little Peter spewing out the entire waterfall from nothing but his mouth. Now this is actually a little bit more interesting because this was changed in the Ultra Revamp update. This used to be just a square blob with a face on it, but it got changed to be Peter. Someone in my comments mentioned that this cube is actually also Peter apparently, which I wasn't aware of. I don't know why. I think it's just because it's funny. The next interesting thing is something you've definitely seen before, but something you probably just didn't realize you've already seen. This little table is a reference to another New Blood game, Gloomwood. Now I've not played Gloomwood, I know nothing about it, and the only reason I know this is a reference is because Hakita mentioned it on the dev stream.
Oh yeah, the Gloomwood tables, the tables that Dave fucking hates. We put them in here because le funny in joke. Because this was in Gloomwood. There's this table model. It's not this, but this is just a recreation of it. There's like a table, and Dave just for some reason fucking hates the table model. And whenever there was like during meetings, whenever they used to play Gloomwood, they would be like, "That table's ugly. You should change it." And you almost was like, "Yeah, totally sure," and never did.
You heard it from the man himself, le funny. Another little secret in 5-2 is this door. The devs were making this level were worried that this door would confuse players and they'd think, oh, well this is a door, I can go inside of it. So to make sure no one actually tried going inside of it, they just made the door really low res, so no one would look at it and go, I can use that. They'd look at it and go, oh, there's no way I can use that. It's too low res. And I mean, I guess it worked. I've never seen anyone ever try going in this door. 5-2 really has a lot of these, huh? Now, I can't actually find any source for this, but I've heard through the grapevine that Jakito comes from misspelling Hakito, which is a misspelling of Hakita. So I've heard that Jakito's name is a misspelling of Hakita. But I can't actually find a source for this, so if anyone's got like a patient zero for Jakito's name, I'd love to see it. Escaping 5-2 for a minute, and we go to 7-4, where if you have full brain enabled, you can come over here and look at this. You know, it doesn't look like much, but if you look at it real closely, it kinda starts looking like a certain comic strip. Now, I thought for the longest time that this was an unintentional reference, it just happened to look like that, but I have actually been told recently, no, this was intentional. It's a loss reference. Now, if you've seen the trailer for the Firestarter, you'll know that Hakita wrote out the word Gorb, because it's literally the thumbnail of the video. But I have no idea what this means. I now have an idea what this means. The only even maybe reference is this. If you go inside the Earthmover's brain, there's a little Victoria here, staring at the Gorb light. And if you were to kill the brain, the Gorp light turns off, although it's a little bit hard to see because it moves so much. You can see it now says off. I have honestly got no idea what this means. I just know that these are 2 places that say Gorp, and this must somehow be connected. I just don't know where that connection is. Speaking of the Earthmover's brain, you might have noticed that it's quite the jiggly boy. Like, if you move it at all, it likes to bounce. The same thing is true for the Minotaur's stomach. Look at it bounce, look at it jiggle. The reason for this is, well, let's be honest, it's very fitting for the video game. Both of these things use a file that gives jiggle physics that comes from a furry porn game. And you know what? Since we're on the topic of that, the voice actor for Gabriel, Gianni, also voiced in a porn game for furries. very on brand for this. It's very on brand, isn't it? Now this one isn't in-game or even related to the developers at all, but some random guy discovered a bacteriophage and just happened to be an Ultrakill fan, so we called it Minos Prime with a PH. And then under former names, he called it the Corpse of King Minos. Get it? Now I've mentioned this one a few times recently, but I was really surprised by how many people didn't know about this. If you want to skip getting the rocket launcher, all you need to do is this. No, I'm serious. Now the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was genuinely surprised how many people didn't know this button exists. I mean, I get that it's hidden outside the map and all that, but I thought it would be more common knowledge. I thought it was reasonably well known, but no. If you press this button, the exact same effect of the hallway flipping over occurs as if you actually grab the rocket launcher. It's put there so you explicitly don't have to grab the rocket launcher. And I am surprised how many people aren't aware of this. Now in 7-S we get what I believe is a 2-for-1 special. This clock will always show the correct time as on your computer. As you can see right now, it is about 8:55. And as of recording, I can tell you, yeah, no, it's about 8:55. But I'm also pretty sure that this is also a reference to one of Hakita's older albums that aren't related to Ultrakill. However, that one I might be wrong about, I don't know. So we'll call that one half of a secret. Now, if you go to 7-2 and you no-clip to the start of the outdoor section, it's important that you no-clip because for some reason teleporting with the checkpoint doesn't work. The clock tower will, well, it will do that. Just to show you that teleporting won't work, here we are going to teleport to the outdoor start, and yeah, it doesn't care. I don't know why this is a thing, I don't know who decided to put this in the game, but I'm not complaining, it's pretty funny. Now this is another one that I thought was way more common knowledge than it actually is, but this Gutterman doesn't have a coffin on the back. And a lot of people are really confused by this and think it's some kind of bug. No, this is entirely intentional. This guy's coffin is safe and sound right here. It's got the book in it. These are the same dudes. It's just the guy who's like, oh, I don't need you anymore. Yap, 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 yap. And then they dump the coffin here and off they go. Completely coffinless out here. Now, Ultrakill has a lot, and I mean a lot of ways to clip out of bounds. But did you know that some of them actually have been left in the game on purpose and have little dev messages behind them? There's Pipe Clip in 0-1. There's Updoor in 0-2. There is Wit's End in 1-S. There's Off the Beaten Track in 2-4. And there's Yup, That's a Cavity in 3-1. With the final clip that I'm being aware of being The Filter's Gone But the Memory Remains in 4-3. Now I say this is all the out of bounds clips, I actually didn't know that cavity clip was a thing until a couple of weeks ago, so there could definitely be ones that I've missed, and if you know any more, I'd love to hear them in the comments. In 7-2, if you spawn a bunch of enemies underneath the clock tower, or lure one under it, pause. What the fuck is that checkpoint doing there? That is the checkpoint for when the clock tower has fallen over. Clock tower is... it's not fallen over. Why is that there? What the fuck? And then have the clock tower kill them all. You'll get a unique star bonus. Or the... I'm pretty sure this is a reference to something, I just don't remember what it's referencing. I have been told that this is referencing a song or an album, I forget which, called For Whom the Bell Tolls, I believe. This portion of the video now has 4 bongo cats, don't question it. In the sandbox, you might notice that this is a Gmod area. And you're probably wondering, well, how is he allowed to use Gmod assets? Well, not Gmod assets, but you know what I mean. Because of this email hidden behind this wall. An email to Gary Newman. Gary. G. Gary's mod. I guess Hakita just didn't want anyone to assume he stole it. I don't have any footage for this one, so we're just going to sit here in the void. Ultrakill was originally going to take place in space, before Hakita decided he was going to make it take place in hell. That's just a little fun fact. Now this one is very easy to notice when you're playing the game, but in the background of the 6-2 ending sequence, Gabriel is sat in what is presumably either heaven or the moon, and in the background, right in the top corner, annoyingly covered by my cheats, you can see planet. You can see Earth. And you can see how it's all grey and devoid of life. It's very easy to miss that or to mistake it for the moon, but it's there, and it's the only site of Earth that we see currently in the entire game. Now, you probably already knew this one, but it's a very easy thing to forget. If we turn the music all the way off, and we stand next to these coffins, you can very faintly hear someone scream as they spend eternity burning in lava. God, this is really contrasted by the Bongo Cats, huh? Now, you've probably noticed while playing the game that street cleaners have a skirt on. But did you know that when they die... Well, that's not a very helpful example. Did you know that when they die, they just lose their skirt? It just disappears. I mean, you can see it happen in real time. It just goes. This has been a thing for a really long time. Now, many of you may know that before Ultra Revamp, on top of this building, there was a little etching that said penis lol. But you can't actually reach it anymore, so a lot of people have probably thought that it's gone away, but no. If you no-clip through the city skyline, it's still there. I don't know why they decided to make this inaccessible. They decided to move Armboy, because he would have been inaccessible with the new city skyline. So why didn't they move the penis? It doesn't make sense. Can we free the penis? Hashtag free the penis. Before Jackhammer got released, and while it was just a teaser thing that we didn't really know what it did, we were all wondering what this little gauge was going to be called, what it was used for. Well, we got many teasers from the devs, and the main one being this gauge was the Luigi gauge. I can only assume they decided to call it the Luigi gauge because of the Luigi's Mansion reference in 7-S, where you're hoovering up the ghost drones. Other than that, I don't know why they call it the Luigi gauge. Now, you're all probably aware that the game keeps track of how many points you have in the shop. But did you know that if you have over 1 billion P, it stops telling you how much you have and just says, like, a lot of P? How do you get 1 billion P? Well, there's a very easy way. Simply enter the cybergrind, have cheats enabled, go out the map, but don't start the cybergrind just yet. Turn on blind enemies. Give yourself the spawner arm. Spawn anything. I'm gonna just spawn Minos. Turn on no weapon cooldown and go absolutely crazy. This is a lot easier if you do it with ultra coins. But as you can see, I'm getting a lot of ricochets here. Yeah, I'm like really stupid. I don't know how I just forgot that the dual wield power-up exists, but if you spawn something in and then you give yourself 1 million dual wield power-ups, it's way faster to do that and just throw all of these coins, and then you get like a bunch of ricochets so much faster. Alternatively, just install ultra coins. It's the same thing realistically. As long as you kill yourself to end the wave, you'll actually gain points. Welcome back to the Void. Did you know that the style ranking system is canonically the terminals ranking how stylish your gameplay is? I'm pretty sure this is implied in one of the Prime Sanctum terminals. Now, you're definitely aware that this game uses these blue and red skulls as keys to open doors. However, you probably realize that this skull is an oddly similar color to the Ferryman. Well, that's because this skull was a former Ferryman. The way Ferrymen work is once a Ferryman comes around, he will try to kill the already existing Ferryman, because only one can exist at any given time. Slight correction, I believe that's not actually true. I think it's because they all want little cloak that they're wearing, because it was given to them by Gabriel, I believe. And the dead Ferrymen's skulls become keys for these doors. Now, there is one last thing I want to show off for this video. As we all know, Sisyphus likes to pop his little head out of this thing once you get it low enough. However, once I get to that point, I'll show you something you probably had never seen before. So can you imagine if we had to fight the full thing like the Flesh Prison? That would suck. But anyway, we all know that Sisyphus breaks out of this thing himself. But do you know that he's just kind of all squished up in here without a head? Yeah, that's bad posture, dude. That one must have really hurt. If you turn on no clip in 7-4 and you just shuffle your way through this wall, there's a sunflower here. And there's a Japanese sign that calls this thing the power plant. Now, I have never seen this anywhere whatsoever, but the Weight of the World update, or update 12a, added 5-S into the game, and it added a whole bunch of jokes about the size 2 fish, and ever since then, in every update afterwards, it has said, fixed a bug that caused size 2 fish to not be catchable. Every update until patch 15D, and every patch afterwards, doesn't mention the size 2 fish, because in patch 15C, they changed the text to fixed a bug that caused size 2 fish to be catchable. Not uncatchable, catchable. And this is also patch 15, the same update where 7-S came out. The level that has a secret about size 2 fish. I'm just saying, I'm not exactly thinking this is a coincidence. I'm thinking this is fully intentional, and this is just something that nobody has ever mentioned, ever. I have never seen anyone mention this until now. Now, in my last video, I made a point about how the clock tower in 7-S would actually show you your accurate time. I didn't know Big Ben also shows you the real time. It's about 2:50 right now. I didn't know it did this. That came from my comments. Thanks to whoever mentioned that. Now that I think about it, I should have put these two back to back, but whatever. Too late now. If we go all the way into the far distance with this guy, which it's going to take a while, give me a minute. Looking back on this, I don't know why I didn't just give myself a bunch of wheel power-ups and then sharpshooter fly over there. It would have been a lot faster, but whatever, man. Not only is the Earth Mover over here full size, like fully scaled Earth Mover, but it has one of the developer plushies hidden on the back of it. That took me 3.5 minutes to get all the way over here. This video was meant to be full of a little bit more obscure things than the last one, but that doesn't mean there can't be some things that most people will probably know. If you come to the museum, you can obviously grab all these plushies, and then you can chuck them into the bin. I said you can chuck them into the bin. And of course, there's nothing stopping you from just continuing to throw plushies in the bin. Now, it takes quite a while, and it takes quite a lot of plushies thrown into the bin, but eventually this will happen. All the plushies turn into V1 plushies, the music turns off, and if I actually turned off blind enemies, the horde comes out of nowhere. The horde of Gianni plushies. Plushies? Gianni PNGs. And there's like 30 of these dudes. There's a lot of them. They're all just reskinned filth though, so they die pretty easily. And then once you kill them all, the game just acts like nothing ever happened, and you can go right back to destroying plushies. Welcome to bonus fact. This plushie respawns infinitely. Infinite glasses. And that's because you can give any other plushie the glasses and they'll put them on. And if the plushie is already wearing glasses, it will put them on top of their head. Now, if you have cheats enabled, you can give yourself the spawner on, which allows you to spawn basically anything you want anywhere. And if you spawn enemies specifically off the edge of 5-4, get out of here, you get the star bonus. Why are you even spawning enemies here? Yeah, that makes sense. Why are you spawning enemies here? What is the purpose? While we're here, I just want to show off a very weird bug that I found. If you hold right-click, obviously, the sword on starts revving up. But if you then press pause, release right-click, and resume, my hands are off the keyboard right now. It just keeps going until you press the button again to release it. I don't think that's useful in any scenario at all. It's just an interesting bug. Now, greed is obviously based off of a desert, specifically very ancient Egyptian inspired, which probably leads you to think that this is, you know, just really hot sand, because sand under the desert sun will get really hot. But no, this is actually really hot gold, because of course, we're in the greed layer, so it's got to be related to money somehow, doesn't it? And while we're in 4-2, there's a couple of interesting things you probably didn't know. Number one, the Statue of Liberty has a heart. It's pretty difficult to see, but yeah, it's there. Number two is on the backs of all of the monuments are the old textures, just a really teeny tiny version. And number three, did you know that this is the strongest explosion in the game? 7-1 is hiding a lot of secrets in its walls. For example, going outside here, and then going through this debris, we get the live Hakita reaction, which immediately kills you. Also in 7-1, The Minotaur obviously runs through and destroys these mannequins, but if you keep following it, and I mean keep following it, he's just chilling. Out in the void, he will stay here forever. Until this part of the level gets unloaded. He's chilling. And he can still hit you. Which I think is kind of funny. Now, in my last video, I showed off how you can give yourself infinite points by just using Cybergrind. However, did you know that if you go too high, and by too high I mean above the 32-bit integer, which is about 2.147 billion, it will wrap all the way around to negative 2 billion. And it would display as -1. So, don't go too crazy, or you might find yourself having to get another 4 billion P. Now, the way Ultrakill loads its levels is a little bit weird. I'm not a game dev, I don't really understand the reason, but every level will infinitely loop in all of its directions, and you can see this if you go out of bounds with most levels. However, the easiest place to find out is in 5-2 and 5-S, because the water just lets you slide. And if you keep sliding for long enough, you'll start to see the level appear, but you'll be on the opposite side. It's just a very simple and easy way to showcase how the game loops its levels without having to clip out of bounds. In 5-3, this entrance elevator and room is the exact same as the exit elevator and room, which makes sense as to why this terminal goes from looking like this to looking like this. And saying ow. Speaking of terminals, 7-S is the only secret level to have a terminal in its starting room, because it's the only secret level with actual enemies you're supposed to kill. And this one says, didn't expect me. Now, this one is another one that came from my comments that I really wasn't aware of, but apparently, the secret exit in 7-3 that you're supposed to use the Streetcleaner fire to burn can be burned with gutter tank rockets. It's a little bit annoying to see because they kind of try punching you, but yeah, it burns, and you can go straight in to 7-S. I've been told that virtue beams also do this apparently, so come on, dude. So they do. Now, Gluttony obviously begins with you entering the corpse of King Minos' mouth, which means it's a very understandable misconception that people consider gluttony to take place within Minos' corpse. It doesn't. That's a misconception. It's a very clear misconception, and it's very obvious why people come to that conclusion. And it's not helped by the fact that P-1 does actually take place inside the corpse of King Minos, while also being in Gluttony. It really doesn't help people avoid this misconception that part of it is inside Minos and part of it isn't inside Minos. Now, this probably is my pick for the single worst piece of environmental storytelling in this game. This right here is supposed to depict an Earth Mover. I'm fucking serious. The reason being is because the trees that you feed and grow in 7-3, all of these trees that you grow, they will eventually grow to hold the Earth Mover in place. It's a lot better now because you can actually see it's got like shrubs growing on it, but back when this level first came out, oh my god, this was the worst piece of environmental storytelling I think I've ever seen ever. And yeah, I got it wrong in the lore video, which I think frankly is a bit understandable. Now this one is like a secret within a secret within a secret within a secret within a secret. 7-S is already a secret, but if you grab this skull, you then have to finish the entire enemy portion of the level. Once you finish the enemy portion of the level, you're going to want to grab the red skull again, get the vacuum cleaner, completely ignore cleaning up the level because I'm not spending the next 40 minutes of my life doing that. Come to this secret green bookshelf, hoover it up, use electricity on this thing, hoover it again, and then you have to finish the second big secret, the Luigi's Mansion bit. Not only do you get Drone Haunting, but if we go back to the secret bookshelf, this door will now be opened, which opens to a small hole in the invisible wall, which means you can then take the red skull behind the waterfall to the secret passageway, which this is really long, by the way. And right at the end of this passageway, you can put the red skull down to find the third big secret, which is also where you find V2, Hakita, and the secret message about the size 2 fish. But did you know That moon is fully 3D modeled, and I have no idea how you get over there. But apparently, if you do it without cheats, because if you turn cheats on, this place just disappears. It just kicks you out. So if you manage to do it without cheats, this is on the back of the moon. The dog side of the moon. There are apparently numerous ways to reach the back of the moon. Apparently you can just clip out the invisible walls around the cliff somehow, but I've never managed to do that. And there's also a way you can do it with the mind flare that spawns in this room while idled. If you go out there, it will follow you because it's a mind flare. They do that. And you can jackhammer and parry and do all those things off of the mind flare to go all the way to the side of the moon. It's an insane video. Just look it up. It's insane. Now, the swords machine that you find in O-2, the one that travels across the screen and kills all of these strays, is actually a full enemy that you can hit and attack. The thing is it has 250 health, not on Brutal. I don't know if Brutal's boss health multiplier applies to this swords machine, but it has 250 health on every difficulty other than Brutal, which is because Hakita doesn't exactly want you killing this thing, which, I mean, you can technically do if you really felt like it. You can try your hardest to kill it, but you won't, because it has more health than Sisyphus Prime, which has led a lot of people to believe that it's actually the strongest enemy in the game. But the Panopticon technically has a little bit more health than it, so it's the second strongest enemy in the game. I have been told conflicting numbers on this one. I have been told 300 health, and I have also been told 240 health. I don't know which one is correct. Either way, the swords machine's pretty damn strong. Now, this isn't really a secret, I just think it's more funny than anything. If we get Agony and Tundra to spawn in, and then we spawn in Minos Prime, and make them fight each other, who do you think's gonna win? Because it's not Minos. Yeah, as you can see, Agony and Tundra aren't even close to dying. You know, out of curiosity, can Sisyphus beat them? I have no idea. If you start a game from a brand new save, and you make it all the way to 1-1, and then just ignore the nail gun, it will then show up again right at the very start of 1-2. This is the only weapon in the game that does this, unless if you count the shotgun, which you can technically get early in O-2. Other than that, this is the only weapon that really, really wants you to pick it up. So someone asked what happens if you don't pick this thing up in 1-2, and I don't know, so let's find out. I'm pretty sure it's just gonna not show up. Yeah, that makes sense. Someone also asked what happens if you pick up the Sawblade launcher, and I was going to just go through the game with no enemy on, and this happened in 2-4. I wasn't expecting this. Do I just not get anything? Well, that was anticlimactic. Now, you may have seen speedrunners, after they core nuke, shoot their shotguns like this, but you might not know exactly why. Well, it becomes a lot easier if you have the horizontal speed indicator on. Specifically, horizontal units per second, not hammer units. I saw someone make that mistake. It's not hammer units. If we do a core nuke and then start shooting my shotguns, you can see my horizontal speed is going up. Because shotguns, for whatever reason, have reverse recoil. So when you shoot them, it drags you forwards instead of pushing you backwards. Now everyone knows that to access Big John, you have to put the blue skull on the mannequin with the red skull at the start of the game. I'm stuck in a wall. A lot of people probably figured this out by googling it or watching a video, so did you know? If you go to the outdoors portion of the level, and jump all the way to the other side, one of the secrets tells you what you need to do to unlock Big John. I actually really like this secret. This is a really cool way of telling you how to do the secret. I really like this. I wish the game did this kind of thing more. So in my first video, I briefly mentioned Armboy being moved, and a lot of people were really surprised by this. So yes, you can't reach Armboy anymore by going back up this little shaft. He's just not here. To reach Armboy, you need to go all the way to the other side of the city. And then you need to go around the back of this giant building. And Armboy is just chilling. He's okay. He's just been moved. Did you know that this little bone bridge in 3-1 is actually just a really small portion of a full Minos parasite the Hakita is just repurposed to use as a bit of a bridge. It's a pretty big guy to be used for such a tiny little bridge. Oh yeah, and I guess the song that's playing right now, Guts, is just a slowed down version of the song that plays later, Glory, if you didn't know. Now the skulls in the revamp update got these little symbols on their heads to make it easier for colorblind people to realize which skull goes where. But did you know that these symbols actually mean something? On both the skull and the pedestal, the symbol is present, and it makes this little water and this little fire sort of effect. However, these are actually alchemy symbols. This one is for mercury, which is why it's sort of silvery water, and this one is for sulfur. Now I missed this initially, but we have the mercury and sulfur, but the torch apparently is salt. Now this is actually related, I just don't really know how. All of this code that appears in the background of the main menu is a poem that you can decode using... I don't fucking know, I'm not a coding guy. Yeah, this is where the womb thing comes from, by the way. I wasn't aware that it was a whole poem, but this poem is something related to alchemy. All I know is a lot of people spend a really long time trying to figure out what it means, and I don't have a clue. Now this will probably be one of the more well-known things in these videos, but obviously if you put the torch down on the pedestal, the room lights up all green. Take the torch off and the lights turn off. Now if you go back through the level to the Tomb of Kings, and you place the torch down on this pedestal, you can then grab the skull, which, by the way, this thing can light the pedestals, but if you put this skull onto the final pedestal, the room lights up all blue. And if we go all the way back to the Tomb of Kings, put the skull back where it belongs, and then we fiddle our way through the dark, all the way back to the final room a third time, and we try grabbing the soap, and then you put the soap on the pedestal, and the lighting goes all multicolored. This is actually a reference how Ultrakill players are gay and you take a shower. Now this was something I actually didn't know before making this series, but I was told that if you spawn in a red skull and put it on the pedestal, the lighting turns red despite the fact that this is impossible to do. In 5-4, there are these floating bodies you can kind of faintly see in the dark. If I turn on full bright, you can see that they're just green little shapes. Well, these guys are actually just the beta model for strays, which are the exact same as the first puppet model used in 7-3. Look, they're the same guy. This one isn't actually possible to access right now, but if you're able to find your way into a secret level entrance when the secret level isn't finished yet, there'll be a giant Hakita plushie blocking your path saying that you shouldn't be there. Following a trend of things that you can't see anymore, back in 4-4, before the Sawblade launcher was released, the secret room was replaced with a black square that just said, "This will do something later." Now we're all aware that this bridge in... Why did you wake up? Get out of here. We're all aware that this bridge in 2-1 falls over if you stand on it, but if you put an enemy underneath it, and then drop the bridge on top of them, you get a unique style bonus, Usha violation. The Derp fish in 5-S's first appearance is actually in 5-1. You can just find it sort of swimming around the main room, but sometimes it will be out of bounds, so it's not 100% guaranteed to spawn here. You can also kill it. Hell's geometry is weird and confusing, and a lot of people get this wrong. Ultrakill's Hell uses non-Euclidean geometry, which means you can jump into one door, like say, this elevator, and instead of, going down, you could go over there, or up there. You can end up anywhere. And this is why, despite going into Minos' mouth and ending up in Gluttony, Gluttony isn't necessarily within Minos' mouth. This is going to be a lot more obvious in Fraud, which has very upfront and open non-Euclidean geometry in the level design. This one is another very well-known one, but I like it. This, right here, inside the bomb with the Hakita plushie watching it, is a little animation called Fucking Finland. Fucking with no G. This one is only really viewable in 4-4 or Sandbox, but if you get a ton of double power-ups... That was really loud, oh my god. And then you just hold left and right click, you can see pretty quickly the weapons start to desync. So you can have a bunch of them charging their shots at different times, shooting regular shots while other ones are charging. It's all just a bit funky. While we're here, Sandbox is a great place to show you that the more double power-ups you have, the more your weapons just infinitely go along horizontally. As you can see, if I shoot, the shots are going to come from further and further away left and right. And that will just keep going forever and ever as long as you keep having double power-ups. Another thing that is easiest to see with a bunch of double power-ups is if you go really far away. Like, really far away. Unity itself will just kind of start breaking. You can see my weapons are kind of spasming out, and then, yeah, the HUD is trying its best to keep up. There are only a handful of levels in the game where you can do this without going out of bounds. 7-4 is one of them. If you go all the way to the Earth Mover in the distance, the game will start freaking out a little bit just from how far away that guy is. Apparently this is less to do with Unity and more to do with the fact that computers just suck with really big decimals, and when you go really, really far away, you have really, really big decimals. Flesh Prison's eyes use the same AI that drones use, which is a key factor as to why they are incredibly annoying. I'm not 100% sure on this, but it looks like Mysterious Druid Knight and Owl also use the exact same AI as drones. I mean, you put them side by side and they look almost identical. Speaking of Mysterious Druid Knight and Owl, once they're dead, which is pretty hard to notice when you're in 4-3 Arena because it's so tiny, they just kind of fly away. In an older version of the game, spawning in Druid Knight and then giving him the boss bar used to just call him a drone, so I think that confirms that he uses the drone AI. The Mind Flayer terminal text has always mentioned that a small percentage of Mind Flayers spawn as male variants just out of cosmetic preference. And since revamp, yeah, they can spawn as males now. But when they said it was a small chance, no, they weren't lying. The production of V1 was cancelled due to the ending of the final war, which makes a lot of sense. And V2 was starting to being produced because, well, the people who made V1 didn't want to lose all their money. However, the cancellation of V2 is because of capitalism. No one wanted to buy this thing. Sentries are the only machine that can see in high definition. All the other machines use lower approximate renderings to save on processing power, but sentries see in full HD so they can make sure to snipe you from just as far away as they possibly can. This is also probably the canonical reason for why this game looks straight off the GameCube. Now this one's a bit of a weird one. If you freeze a rocket for a few seconds, it will turn blue, and upon hitting an enemy, no matter if they're mid-air or standing on the ground, it will do a stronger red explosion. However, this is actually the nerfed form of this rocket. When Violence first launched, and this mechanic was first added into the game, there was a tech that you could do with the malicious rail cannon with the Omega nuke, and it was patched out of the game so fast. I have never seen anything patched out of this game faster, because it was about twice the size of a normal nuke. It was so overpowered. It's insane that it even made it into the game in the first place. Man, I tried really hard to find a clip of an Omega nuke anywhere, but it just doesn't exist. It was in the game for such a short period of time. Every single Cerberus you walk past in-game, whether it gets up or not, is sentient, is awake, and can attack you. It's just only the ones that get up decide they feel like attacking you. The other ones just kind of don't care, I guess. So all of these guys here who just don't give a fuck, like they could get up and kill me, they just don't want to, they don't feel like it. Everyone's heard all the jokes about the Mind Flayer because of course they have, but the Mind Flayer itself is only this little grey bit and all the tentacles. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't really know why these exist. But the Mind Flayer itself is just the grey bit. The actual body is just a bunch of plastic it's found and made to look like that because it likes it. The dudes chilling in the max of Guttermen were once alive, right? They were barely alive, and they were alive to keep these things fueled. But whether or not they're alive now is a bit up in the air. If you turn on Fulbright, you can see that this tube that was going from its heart is still red, implying there's still blood being pumped from this thing, which is still keeping the Gutterman alive. But, I don't know about you, but this guy, he doesn't look very alive to me. And to just further complicate things, this guy doesn't even have the dude on the back, so who knows what the fuck is keeping this guy up and running. Every swords machine you fight in the game is just a replica of the original swords machine. Now we don't know who the original is, but it's speculated that it's this guy in O-2, purely because I guess it's the one that we fight first, so it's probably the first one. But there isn't anything to confirm whether or not this guy is the original swords machine or not. That might be bullshit. Apparently Hakita mentioned it in one of the dev streams. I don't know. I am not sitting through all 13 hours of the dev streams to find out. In 4-4, V2 gains the ability to shoot your coins back at you. But did you know that even 1-4 V2 has this ability? It won't try to shoot your coins back, and it won't happen very often, but if you can throw a coin into its path, if you can manage to throw a coin into where its piercer shot goes, it will shoot the coin back at you just like it's 4-4. See? It's just really hard to get this to happen because, well, V2 isn't actively trying to do this in this fight. Since we're in 1-4, I suppose I may as well go over what V2 does when he dies. Once V2 dies, he jumps out of bounds and drops you the Knuckle Blaster. But did you know, if you go out of bounds, he's just kind of chilling here? He's trying his best to run away, as you can see by his frantic scrambling, but no, he's forever stuck in purgatory, bouncing forever and ever. When you start up a new save file, or you start with the full intro, right at the start of the boot up sequence, you get a firmware version, and it says 2112.08.06, which can be taken as a date. And it's no coincidence that this date is just under 200 years after the start of World War I. My dogs are going crazy. It has all but been explicitly confirmed by Hakita that Ultrakill's final war is just an elongated version of World War I. And by explicitly confirmed, I mean Hakita has literally done everything but say it's World War I. It's World War I. Now, I love the sharpshooter's right click. I think the sharpshooter's right click is one of the most fun mechanics in this game. But did you know it was originally going to be its own separate weapon? One of the original concepts for a revolver was going to be a weapon that if you shot, it would bounce around. But Hakita decided that it was too clunky to be put as a whole weapon, so instead this idea was repurposed as just the right click for the sharpshooter, which I think is much better. This is Maurice. This is Andre. And this is Benjamin. I'm pretty sure Maurice has an actual reason behind it being called Maurice, and the other two are just silly names people came up with because they're silly. I got these two mixed up. Maurice and Benjamin are apparently just silly joke names, although Maurice, it can be questioned whether it is, I believe. Whereas the nickname Andre is apparently related to an old game Hakita never made, and this guy's name in the files is related to that. I don't know, that's what I've been told. All I know is that apparently Andre is the one that has a connection and the other two are just for fun. This one is mostly just a very easy detail to miss or to forget about, but these mannequins in 7-1 move when you look away from them. Sometimes. But the one behind me keeps doing it, but this guy just... there we go. Rockets obviously bounce off of Maurice, and other parts of enemies that have plating. But the way they bounce is really weird, and you wouldn't really get to see it in a normal game because they're in such small areas. But once they bounce, they kind of like go everywhere. Using the same metallic material and sandbox in any hit scan weapon, you can create a particle accelerator. Just don't let your Sisyphus walk into the particle accelerator, it's not healthy for him.
That's it.
Sleep. If you have the disable enemy spawns cheat enabled, obviously nothing will spawn when you walk into rooms. However, if you go into the hideous mass room in 1-3 or 1-E, his arms will still be chilling here, and he'll still be just under the map. I am very aware that you can shotgun swap by just having one shotgun. All you need to do is go into your settings, go to your controls, and bind anything to variation slot 1, and then you just press that button. Violence is probably the layer in the game with the most connections to Dante's Inferno, as every level in this layer represents a different sub-layer of the violence circle in Hell. Violence is the biggest layer in Dante's Inferno, and so it's split into 4 different areas. 7-1 represents the labyrinth. The dogs are going off again, aren't they? 7-2 is supposed to represent violence against others, which is why it's a perpetual war zone. 7-3 represents violence against the self, which is why all of these trees are oddly humanoid-shaped. It's because they're people who committed suicide and have been banished being a tree. And then 7-4 represent violence against God, which I guess humanity creating a weapon so powerful it destroys all life that God created. Yeah, I guess that fits. Despite being only loosely connected to Dante's Inferno, Ultrakill still does share a bunch of locations from the book in its game, such as the city of Dis in 6-1, the river Styx, which has now become the ocean Styx due to just how many people died, the river, the river in 7-2. The Lust City, however, is complete bullshit. Big John and the Soap apparently both come from Dusk. I have never played Dusk, so, if that's not true, blame everyone who told me it comes from Dusk. If you no-clip through the exit into the vacuum and cleaning room in 7-S, and then walk right back out the door, the game will think that you've finished, because, well, technically, there's no dirt anywhere, and because the game thinks there's no dirt anywhere, you can just leave. This is actually how the 7-S speedrun works. They just clip into this room, and then the game is like, oh, there's no dirt, okay, off you go. This is called the Death Star tech. There's not really like a fun fact, I just think it's funny that that's called the Death Star. Ultra Revamp added this text into 5-1, which shows you that the water in Wrath is being sent to the Lust City. It says the Lust layer is a peaceful city. This plant siphons infrastructure, vital water to us. If you have escaped the ocean Styx, use these pipes to send us a message, we will rescue you. That's pretty wholesome. The in-game reason that you can freeze gutter tank rockets with the freeze frame is because it's reused technology between the both of them. Now apparently a lot of people get this wrong, but Gabriel is the protagonist of the story of Ultrakill. He has most of the dialogue in the game. He has all of the story beats. He is the main character. The random bumblefuck robot you play as is not the main character of this game. Now the Earth movers in 7-2 kinda look like just a 2D image that lights up every so often. But if you fly all the way out there, the closer you get, the more you'll start seeing that they're actually fully 3D modeled. Turning on full bright doesn't actually help here, so we'll have to wait for the flashing of light. But yeah, you can see, like, it's full 3D. They're not full-size Earth movers, but they are pretty big boys still. I forgot to mention this in the video, but if you turn off enemy spawns, and then go outside in 7-2, the Earth movers are also gone. The light will flash and there's just going to be nothing there. To my knowledge, this isn't mentioned anywhere in-game. It's not even on the title screen. But V1's wings are where he stores all of his weapons. You can only see this, as far as I'm aware, in the New Blood poster for the game. You can see the revolver, the shotgun. I think that's probably the nailgun of the Sawblade launcher. I don't know why this isn't on the title screen. I think it'd be really cool to see this on the title screen. Maybe it's to not spoil new players to the weapons later on in the game, but maybe the title screen could change as you unlock different weapons. I think that'd be a cool idea. And Hakita seems to agree with me on that one. I didn't know this because I'd already got all the arms before Ultra Revamp came out, but the Knuckle Blaster and the Whiplash only appear on the menu screen once you grab them. I didn't know this. I was also wrong by saying that the weapons in the wings is never mentioned outside of the art. It's mentioned in 1 or 2 other pieces of art, and it's also referenced in one of the small little pieces of text that come here. But it's not exactly obvious, is the point I'm trying to make. It's not... I think it could be a lot more obvious. I think it would be cool if the wings had the same sort of system as the arms, because that's a really cool feature in the game that I didn't even know existed. And that is 100 and a bit cool and interesting things that you may or may not have known about this game. I certainly learned some stuff from making this series. I felt like stopping it at 100 was probably a good place to stop, because then it's not going to get oversaturated or old, and I'm not going to get bored of making it, because this was really fun to make. I might bring it back at some point. Definitely when Fraud comes out and we learn a bit about Fraud, I'd like to make one for Fraud specifically. But for now, this is probably going to be the last one I make of these for a while. So, thanks for watching. This is a long video. And if you got it all the way over here, you know, you're probably already subscribed, so I probably don't need to tell you, let's be real.